Ladies and gentlemen, I have the incredible good fortune to have two amazing souls, poetic, artistic, just incredibly kind and loving souls, Mr. Robert Cole and Miss Susie Reynolds as our guests today at Poets of the East. Welcome, my dear, dear, dear friends. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us. Yeah.
Well, you know, we had this normal format where I ask you to talk about your childhood and all that stuff, but we're going to throw that out. We're just going to throw that out, and I want you to tell me the stories you want to tell me, and we are all ears for the next hour and a half. You feel free to tell me the stuff you want to tell me. So what's new with you, Robert? What's new with you, Susie? Tell us a story.
I think what's new with us is like being weathermen, not political weathermen, if you know what I mean. We're watching the weather all the time and we're thinking, we're astroplaning. I mean, it may be a strange concept for some people, but I feel that we both astroplane when we write poetry. It's a bit like Keats and his chameleon poet. You know, we go into another plane and we experience something, we come back to Earth. I mean, it's a really weird thing, I know, for some people to accept, but I mean, I think I've been in touch for a long time with some kind of vibe.
Well, when we were in, where was it? Pushkar, yes. Robert said he astroplaned, and we met this guru. He was hived up on the hill in a little ashram, and we were just walking up there, and he called us over, and he had this way of speaking to all the animals and the birds, and then he said to Robert, "We're going to astroplane," and we sat down, and Robert said he actually did. He went off into another sphere.
I got into the corner with a gecko, basically looking into the gecko's eyes.
But he said, "You see those monkeys there?" He said, "Midday they'll be here," and they came. But the funniest thing was the cows, because there was an old lady and she was going to milk the cows, and she was walking at the bottom of the hill with the cows, and suddenly the cows stopped and they started walking up the hill, and she was like looking around, what's happening, where are they going? And they came up the hill to us, to him. He called them, he said, "Oh, I called them." So he had the language, a bit of a latter-day St. Francis, you know. He had the language of all the birds and everything.
This guy
quite amazing,
was a body bastard, but he also a PhD in astrophysics.
Yeah, he's doing his 7-year celibacy, but he said he called us afterwards. When we came back to England, he kept calling us back. It was very, very, very strange.
We're going back.
You know, he said, "Well, you can come back and you can stay with me in this ashram." And, you know, he was eating like vegetables. He said, "You can eat what I eat and we'll talk."
Well, I think
that's the most exciting, most exciting experience really in my life.
In the same place, but when you've been on the rooftop with I don't want to be irreligious, okay, with the Virgin Mary, who's just come from a severe ashram where they're suggesting that they're God Almighty, like the Waco Jesus or something, very serious cult, of course. And this poor woman, she felt that she was the Virgin Mary, and we're standing on
she was American
on the rooftop looking at the stars, and she's completely freaked out. And we'd struggled through the jungle with all this furniture with these Israeli soldiers, you know.
I think strange things happen when you travel, don't they? People wouldn't believe it. It just doesn't sound.
It's like when you build a fire on the beach on the Pacific Rim, you know, with these guys. So when we were in Mexico, we had a great time. We were in a palapa in Zipalili, which is some way down the Pacific Rim from
near Puerto Angel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's great.
Acapulco, no, I hate that. But it was south of Acapulco.
We're not hanging out like a couple of hippies or nothing. We were writing for sure.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
We weren't young. I mean, we were.
Oh, come on.
A lot of people were in their early 20s, and we were
younger today than we were then.
You're older then than now, or younger than now, yeah. Well, Rick knows about that. He's a youngster, aren't you? You're a youngster.
You're eternally
yeah, that's great. It's fabulous. Yeah. We're all big kids together, aren't we? I think.
Well,
she's good. That's what poets are like, though, don't you think?
Susie and I really never grew up since we were
young at heart.
Sort of like, you know. I mean, that was a long time ago.
I was thinking of my first introduction to poetry that I really enjoyed was in Liverpool, and I don't know if you've heard of the Liverpool scene. Adrian Henry, Roger McGough. Yeah, well, they were reading at a local bar in Liverpool, and I went to hear them, and they were doing a space theme. It was incredible. All this space music. They were doing like experimental jazz and stuff all going on, and I
Some
thought,
that come out.
oh, this is fabulous. You know,
like
this is fabulous. I love this.
I thought.
I think I fell in love with Adrian Henry's poetry. I loved his
Oh,
poetry.
he's great.
He was an artist, and
Yeah, from Newcastle actually.
yeah, he was amazing.
Newcastle in England.
And then there was Roger McGough, and I didn't really know
Oh,
him,
he's great.
but we had a party at our flat once when I was a student. I was a drama student there.
You ordered him out.
And he came, I didn't know who he was, and he just wandered into this party. And I said, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And then my friend H, he said, "Don't you know who that was?" I said, "No." He said, "That was Roger McGough." And I thought,
Well,
oh my God, you don't really order people out of your place, do you? When they're famous, you say, "Oh, hello, welcome." And I didn't.
Well, last time I saw Roger McGough, I'm not being funny, like dropping Christian name and all that. I don't know him personally, but we were in a cafeteria and it was pitch dark. I didn't say, "Good night, Mr. Gough. You'll publish me tomorrow on your BBC programme." I wasn't being sycophantic. I thought, you stole my audience, because I was on stage after him and the entire audience just quit. I thought, what's wrong with me? I mean,
That's how it is, though, I'm afraid.
that's what it's like in poetry when you're working from the bottom up to the top. And when you get to the top, you realise you're at the bottom. I mean, I climbed Everest. I still had a glass ceiling to break with a steam hammer.
But I remember Robert reading at the French House in London. He was amazing. And
Soho.
In Soho. And he did a lot for Ambit magazine, and the editor was really cool. He was great.
In that place.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
And it was just Robert used to be an amazing reader. Still is, but he could stand up and hold an audience.
Thanks a lot, Susie.
No, but you still can. But when you've had a stroke, it's not quite the same, is it?
I think it's even better. Like, hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me, hit me, hit me.
I've seen it. I've seen you in different places in London, especially. And last time he was invited to read, we were living in Paris, and we didn't have any money to get to London. We were so poor that we couldn't afford the fare to get to London, because we were paying for the two places, which was like a big luxury, but all the money was going on bills, and we'd retired.
I mean, family bring up as well, remember?
Yeah, but I do love Paris, and I think Paris has been a big inspiration to both of us.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean,
it's just incredible. I want to go back there,
That was my dream as a teenager, to be in Paris.
But we will go back. But my daughter's sort of there at the moment in our studio.
Our Peter's here.
But when she leaves, which she will eventually, we'll go back, I think.
Well, she's an artist as well, of course.
Yeah, she's a photographer, and we wanted her to have the whole pleasure of being there, and to learn from it. It's a different sort of place. I mean, there's more opportunity for young artists in Paris. It still is.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
They're helped.
Even after Brexit.
They get a lot of help, really. If they're prepared to work, they get help.
The thing is, we've always been Europeans. I mean, I'm part European myself. And so, as we're married now, she's my daughter, so she gets all the benefits of being a European. So she's going to be a European artist if she wants to be. But let's just read some poetry.
We're getting boring.
Oh, no. Listen, okay, you guys are so amazing. You could read the phone book and it would be entertaining.
Oh God, who was that? There was a famous actor in England. I think it was Michael Redgrove. Just read the telephone directory in that Shakespearean tone as one does.
Avant-garde poetry.
That was on TV, and that was the breakthrough. I thought, it's great. Yeah. I always wanted, when I was a young boy, I always wanted to be Yevtushenko because I couldn't play the trumpet. My first instrument of choice would be a trumpet. I never got a trumpet. I got a kind of a broken down trumpet from a store in London, which didn't play like a trumpet. So I thought, well, I can use my voice as a trumpet. So when at the age of 15, when I won a prize in London, I decided to be, go do the poetry thing instead of the jazz thing, jazz poetry. And I was very, very fortunate to meet the late John Silkin, who was a wonderful, wonderful jazz poet, and really encouraged me.
Those people who encourage you on the way, they're so important, and
Absolutely.
and there are people out there who do care about developing the art and helping people.
Yeah, who actually care
like
about
yourself,
art.
you're like that.
Of course,
Yeah.
actually.
It's you have to be unselfish to do that, I think.
Well, we've helped many a poet with our magazine, Chimera.
Yeah, when we do the Chimera anthology, which we're planning to do it, because
we're planning it right
we
now.
realised we were really happy when we were doing that magazine, but I don't want to spend all my time doing it because I want to write as well.
Well, you do, Beth.
But
you do.
it was just amazing, and we used to have we used to read at Shakespeare's. George used to sit there, can't make a little tale of this magazine, he said to me once, because he did say that, you can't make a little tale of this.
Did you publish it yourself? And then he saw the publisher. Oh, okay. So he put it in a little cabinet.
But he liked us. He put Robert's pamphlet in the middle of a cabinet in the middle of the shop.
Poet's Corner, so I was happy.
Yeah. And his daughter's lovely. She's still there now. Sylvia,
really
yeah, she's fabulous.
When I first started doing poetry reading in public.
Do you ever get over? Have you been to Paris?
No, not yet. Not this
you
one.
should.
I really want to come.
I've never been to America, really. I mean, I've only been to Mexico. I've been to Mexico. I'd like to go to New York, and I've got a real desire to go there. I'd love to. It looks such an exciting place, All we can do is see Woody Allen movies.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I just saw A Rainy Day in New York the other which is great. I love Woody. He's great.
Wonder Wheel reminded me of when we lived on the estuary, Thames estuary.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, being a natural paranoid, as all poets are.
But I just found out today that Jane Birkin, Serge Gainsbourg's wife, she was his wife. She lives here in Brittany. I didn't know, and she'd been to our local restaurant for a meal. Someone told me today. It's just incredible the things that happen and you don't know about it.
We really admire Serge's work as a director, as a songwriter. Wow.
He was such a man, such an amazing individual, I think.
And Charlotte too.
But
she's a wonderful
unfortunately
actress.
An alcoholic, which didn't help. But
yeah, when you go to Pale Lachaise, what do? They drop the cigarette cases and stubs by his tomb.
Yeah.
You're not far from Oscar Wilde. It's even worse for Oscar because there's a Epstein sculpture which is always losing its phallus.
Everyone steals the phallus, the stone phallus gets collected.
A little girl in Copenhagen, they take her away regularly.
Yeah,
for a collection.
But they also kiss Oscar Wilde's tomb, so he's got all these red lip kisses all over his tomb, And then there was Jim, of course, Jim Morrison, because he's also there.
In the graveyard, it just says, "This way to Jim."
They've got arrows everywhere saying, "This way to Jim, this way to Jim."
This way to Chopin and Naval.
Yeah.
Opposite each other. But I mean, God, when I first went there, I didn't know about the tomb. No, not the tomb. The tombs, yes, with photographs and the memorial to those that lost their lives at Treblinka, Auschwitz, and Dachau.
What about the time you got tripped over by
I got tripped over and I said, "That's Rothschild."
He insulted Rothschild in the graveyard and he suddenly fell over.
I was in Thomas Mann mode and the Magic Mountain, Berg. Yeah. I made a discovery reading Zauberberg. Kafka is actually in that book, and he obviously made a big impression on Thomas Mann.
Yeah, the Glass Mountain. And all
well, I know that because I sprained my wrist so badly. It was, I had some marmot oil on my wrist. Very
They don't use it
vegetarian.
now,
No,
actually,
no, no.
but
It's
it
bad.
was.
You can't
Yeah.
just shoot a few marks.
But when he fell down in the graveyard, he hurt his wrist and he sprained it. Rothschild really got his revenge on you, didn't
Yeah,
he?
I said,
actually?
well, he financed the Rush. No, he financed the French Revolution. Well, so many other people must have done. I just have these sort of like these crazy things about who does this, who does that from history, because I love history. I think if I hadn't been a poet, I'd have been a historian. I don't know. History is where we come from. They say that an Irishman's home is his history, and as an Anglo-Irish person, my home is my history. Now, all my life, I wanted to be a Catholic. I don't know why, because I think it may be because where the church in which I was baptized was burnt down, and I don't know why. But since that day, and also my mother's first love was an Irish airman who flew out of Belfast to bomb Germany, and those days kind of imprinted on my mind. I could never get it together what the older generation were doing to us.
But he was never in school. I mean, he used to be at the cinema all the time.
Oh, that's the other
Yeah.
reason.
So he was a school phobic. He was never at school.
No,
Were you really? I don't think.
I love school.
What you said.
My senior school, I never missed a day.
Well, it was better then, wasn't it?
No, I know, but when I was an infant, I think I was taken out of school at 6 years old, and every after dinner, I'd go to the cinema.
Your father came and took you to the cinema, didn't he?
With my good old daddy, who was a night worker, very fine man, and a poet, published poet, and prose writer. In fact, he's in a volume about Alan Romain, the only private in the volume. And I don't even have a copy because a journalist just ran off with that book, and I'll never see it again.
You might be able to get
Probably
a
in the
copy.
Imperial War Museum in London. Probably. Well, that's enough of me. I'm finished. I'm not saying another thing, but I've got a great fondness for Australia, because my family went to Australia.
Yeah, but what about your uncle who went to America?
Oh, man,
You
went to
sent you
America.
your first
Yeah.
book of modern American poetry,
Great
didn't it?
American poetry, yeah.
Yeah.
So I started to read Whitman at an early age, about 15, 16, and Whitman really opened me up.
I love Whitman, actually.
Yeah, me too. We read Leaves of Grass in India, didn't we?
Yes. But on the BBC here, they had a programme on Whitman. I thought that was interesting.
In our time,
Yeah,
with
it was.
Melvin Bragg.
Yes.
Yeah.
So people are still in England, probably just learning for the first time about him.
Not
Some people.
necessarily.
Some of them are.
You know those long lines, so those to do with the legal paper. He had these legal, like the papers, which would be normally used by lawyers. He had this legal paper, and what impressed me, every night he slept with his disabled brother, and then down the line, he's looking after casualties from the Civil War. He's dressing their wounds, and for that he's like writing democratic vistas, and I love Whitman. I just love Whitman.
I like Sing the Body Electric. That's,
Me too. Yeah,
I could read that over and over.
Yeah. Susie's work. I think Susie is very close to
I don't think so.
Yes.
I don't think
I'm
so.
sure she is. I know
Yeah.
she is. I mean, I think that as far as reality is concerned, it doesn't exist. It's a set of dots that all joined up, somehow with our mind, which is a frame. It's like a rational frame or irrational frame. It depends. They always reckon that poets are crazy, but I can see why. Well, Shakespeare said so.
We need to be crazy, or we wouldn't do anything. We wouldn't do anything unusual. We'd just go and drink coffee in a nice coffee house, eat buns and things, and talk to the neighbour over a barbecue.
Yeah,
I think we've got to do different things. Yeah, we've got to.
Well, we all do different things. We all walk a different path. What did Charles Ives say? We walk to the beat of a different drummer. And that's what I think poets do always. As I say, no such thing as reality. We just see it in a different way, through a kind of vantage, which is slightly askew to other people.
Yeah.
But they are seeing it in the same way. But as poets, we see it for them. We suffer for other people so that they can see their lives through the scrim of our vision. That's why I think as far as good it comes from me. I don't know.
That's like your poetry. It's like very inventive and wonderful. It like goes off at different angles. I love that. It's you're one of us, really. I think
Oh, yeah,
definitely.
we're poets,
Yeah,
born.
yeah, yeah.
A poet is born or made. It, I think that poets are made and born, but I think that when the Romans said poets are born, not made, I think what the Romans said is probably true. But I think sometimes, like Shakespeare said, greatness is thrust upon a person.
Some are born great, some achieve greatness,
yeah,
and some have greatness thrust upon them.
Well, that word greatness could be transposed to poetry is thrust upon them by experience. I think experience teaches us about life, and life is expanded by a poet's vision, or it becomes dark. When it becomes dark, there should be light. I think, I mean, I am a Christian, and it isn't a reactionary position to be a Christian. I think that Christianity casts light on us, and I've actually fought to be a Christian in my life, and it's worthwhile. As crazy as that sounds, I fought every single day of my life to be a Christian, so I'm not going to give that up easily. But for Christianity, I could equally say that the Christians, they're close to that and are very, very close to the same. And Buddhists, I'm not saying that Buddhists, Christians, and Krishna consciousness people are not the same as Christians, and also the Mohammedans have the same enlightenment. They're all Jiva souls. These great people have opened up the world to all of us across time.
You just find your own route, don't you?
Well, I think we come to our own culture. And I think of culture like a petri dish on the windowsill, gathering life, you know.
I was going to tell you a little story about how poetry opened some doors for me. In my early youth, during the Vietnam War days, I was writing passionate anti-war poetry about the racism and the disaster that it was. And I heard that there were some opportunities to read in a public place, public poetry readings, which was in 1970, 69, very, very new in where I lived in Miami. So I went and I discovered to my complete surprise that it was a poetry contest. It was a poetry competition. Now, I thought of everything I knew about poetry, the last thing in the world you want to do is have a contest and grading the poetry and which one was best. Now, of course, as an artist, I understand that some artists can reach people and can inspire them, and some art does not work for a given audience. Now, that I can understand, but I just didn't like the idea of a contest, okay? So I went and I brought one of my anti-war poems and I got a good round of applause and they said I won. And I thought, now
good,
that's
yeah.
irony. I thought it was stupid to have a contest, but I won. Well,
great.
For the next 2 months, twice a month, they had a competition and I went and I won 4 times in a row. And at the end of this, I'm thinking, this is so absurd. I don't want to win, but I'm winning. The plus side is I guess I'm speaking a language that people can understand. But a gentleman pulled me aside and said, Richard, I really like your voice. I think you have an amazing quality. I think what you're saying is very wonderful. But what I want to ask you is, if I gave you a radio show, what would you do? Well, before I'd even thought about it, my mouth announced, well, I want to do a science fiction comedy show. And I thought, a science fiction comedy show? And he said, well, what's the science fiction comedy show about? And I said, it's really simple. It's called Martian Ambassador and the Captured Chorus. And we're in an orbiting satellite and we're poking fun at the Earth. And he said, well, why Captured Chorus? And I said, it's very simple. I don't know who's going to come. I don't know if I can get this friend or this actor or that actor. So whoever comes, they're captured. And he said, okay, we'll start next week. And that was my first introduction to doing radio comedy.
Amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What an
Yeah.
introduction. Wow.
So poetry turned the key for me.
So what do you think of poetry slam now? Do you like slam or not?
To me, it's the same kind of thing. You know, it's a competition.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
And
Yeah.
to me, the best of poetry is that sharing, you know, that exposing our deepest thoughts, our most
Yes.
profound insights. And that's nothing about competition, because your insight and my insight and Robert's insight are going to be completely different, because it's about
Yeah.
what's in your soul and how
Yeah.
the world and you engage. And to me, comparing them is just foolish. Now,
I
again,
agree.
as
Yeah.
an artist,
Totally.
I understand the market and I understand that some people appeal and some people can connect with this message or that message. And I will say honestly that while I try to appreciate every poet, there are some poets, the sad, the mean, the hurtful poets that I don't like. And I cannot, despite the fact that I try to be very open-minded, I don't like it when people praise pain, praise hurt. I just don't like that, and
No.
I can't pretend to support it. You know, that's where I pull back. But you know, luckily in my universe, there are people like you two, people who create from joy, who create from insight, who see worlds, not just hurt, and that makes it all worthwhile. And I thank you two
Thank you.
for
That's
all
the
that you
greatest endorsement we could have ever had.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rick.
Yeah. It's great.
Well, how about a poem from one of you two lovely people?
Do you want to
I've
start?
written one today,
Start
Oh,
with the
good.
one from you wrote. Yeah.
and it's about Delacroix. I happen to know from reading that Delacroix visited the zoo in Paris every day to sketch.
Jardin de Plantes it is called now.
Yeah,
So,
it is near Metro Austerlitz. But of
You want to
course,
show your puppy, Suze?
place when Delacroix.
You want to show your puppy?
oh, yeah. He's been naughty today.
It's very inspirational.
He's an elderly boy, actually, but he's like a teenage tyrant, actually, and at the age of 90 or something. Yeah.
Enfant terrible. Hein?
Enfant terrible, oui. So,
I call it Delacroix's palette. Delacroix crossing the concourse to the zoological gardens, 1,000 pixels recalled in his cyan memory. The Metropolitan line is closed, so we're rewinding to a mocha coffee respray, aero perspective, plasma screen of electric chiaroscuro. The armadillos woken up in their panic room, avoiding the fallout via the radioactive bridge to the uranium plant, a polar bear in a pit. Unhealthy abysm, cases of chronic diseases in vitro, aqua vita, green chlorophyll, light, sunshine, circumnavigating the moon. Delacroix's crayons in his sketchbook, foreshortening the pixelated images, the memories are flickering in his iris, a cyan memory. He creates an illusion of a three-dimensional Euclidean solid circle, after Giotto, after Michelangelo, after the flickering lights in the sky. Everything in a camera roll is antiseptic as a fighting for life on the Serengeti plain, crossing the concourse to the zoological idyll.
very good.
Very lovely.
Yeah.
Very lovely.
Thank you.
Susie, do you have one you'd like to read?
Yes, I don't know which one to read now. It's one I've read before for the Zoom, but it's called Superhighway. I'm playing a game of who's who, carrying a blob of surgical pie, crunch-based, the frogs dissected and divided. Paranoid fantasies prevail in the brain of the recumbent. Dreams of purple mountains and endless wasteland prevail. Teeming robots carrying livers, kidneys, hearts, bloody, and fresh cells held in hands. The biobots are streaming in, overloaded with body parts. Come on in. We are dreaming, dreaming of all cures, head problems, new lamps for old. We can even digest your waste in this Aladdin's cave of sparkling gems. Somewhere to sit and coagulate. All nervous systems are disturbed. Show me one that isn't stringing us along in oceans of calm, stroke victims ink. Bye-bye surgical pie with rubies for eyes, drugs to digest, maybe some cannabis oil, you lucky people above and beyond. No Gomers here, everything's fair, not even a virus to spare. You've been programmed to save, not kill, wobbling along on human legs. No one left in the world to defibrillate.
May I offer you one?
Yes, please
This is
do.
a very fresh one.
Oh, good.
I always, as you know, I love the absurd. I love the counterpoint. And I saw a story just yesterday that sea urchins, which are increasingly scarce in the Caribbean, still have their day, if you will. And I read that while they are preyed upon by starfish, okay, starfish are their enemies, they are mostly vegetarian. They mostly eat algae, and they're known for being able to clean coral. And so they're vegetarians, and starfish dine on sea urchins. But check out this news story that I read, and here's what inspired me. It's called Mobs of Sea Urchins. In the world of science, they've discovered under the sea a new kind of non vegan violence. And with the sea urchin mob startlingly unquiet. Sea urchins, who already have their points, normally quiet in their vegan grazing, their reputation has taken a serious hazing. Sea urchin mobs are attacking starfish, it seems. I almost hate to say it sounds quite alarmish. Sea stars typically prey on urchins and doing their dining in moral desertions. But scientists have recently noted, it seems, that sea urchins' revenge is not the stuff of dreams. It's been seen in the library in a sea urchin study. What was left of a sea star was mangled and bloody. Not enough to invite out for coffee. Urchins are usually vegetarian, preferring their toffee, not even dining on quiet librarians with coffee. Yet somehow they've become dangerous Mysterians. When confronted by ravenous starfish, they gather together with her more than alarmish. They mob the starfish. It's not for the squeamish. It's really quite obscenish. They collect in an ugly mob, and when a dozen or more are gathered, can do scandalous and a dirty, bloody job.
And starfish really
Yeah.
and starfish really run fast like leopards. You know, and we wonder why, and
We've
now
seen
we
these
know.
starfish scampering away. That's
Yeah.
great. I love that. That's funny.
Robert, do you have another one you'd like to share with us, brother?
Oh yeah, sure. But where Sewell was, this is where Van Gogh lives and died. He's buried. There are no crows, aloes, irises over the fields today. We have walked from the graveyard. A hint of time, the existence of a painter butterfly. I have brought his letters, my only luggage, and check into a room overlooking the valley. A Persian screen, my eyelids still full of sunshine. In his room, he was holding a pencil, describing figures in the air. His brush had fallen from his hand. The sun was a kimono. Early morning, undressed, chandeliers, splintering light, echo walls. I watch people going out of their minds under surveillance. Stained glass scaffolding of the church, I can glimpse through fear, a fine drizzle, ultramarine, the cutting edge giving off sparks. Skeleton key cat crosses the violet rays, the possession of you in warm bedclothes, white bust on the mantelpiece. After the shot, I woke up in sweat and patchouli. No reproductions here. Very simple frame in bright orange lead.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Do you have another one you'd like to read, Susie?
Yes, got one. It's a war poem. We've been very beset with war, and one doesn't want to avoid it because it's a big part of life at the moment, and death. So this is Cities at War. Up in flames from my car window, a crucifixion of light as bombs fall, flashing in a crescendo of lives only half lived. The conductor of chaos surveys all. As buildings collapse and everything falls, broken dolls in desperate plight, a fallacy of windows still in place, though all have caved in. So much colour can only blind us, taken unawares in a blow of madness. Birds of paradise release our fantasies. Are they really flying past with an escort of angels? Ethereal, their wings create optical illusions in the skies where rampant souls depart, taken heartless, foreshadowing their own fate in an eternity of sorts, where peace will come at last. Why have you forsaken me? I come from Galilee. I can walk on the sea in a bid for freedom and infinity, just one small boat, like a refugee from the Holy Land, up in flames from my car window, a crucifixion of light as bombs fall and the earth shudders.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Are you going to read another one?
I would be happy to, honored even. I recently got another COVID shot, and
oh, did you? How many have you had?
6.
No,
No, really?
no.
Dear God.
My goodness.
Yeah. Well, since I'd had heart surgery, I've decided to
Yeah,
take doctor's
I
advice
understand,
from
yeah.
time to time now.
Yeah. Just play on the
But
safe side.
I was talking to the pharmacist who gave me the shot, and I said, are you surprised? I said, I am endlessly surprised how many people can live in this modern world of ours and yet not understand how important science is and not listen to the advice of scientists and doctors. And his reaction surprised me. He said he wasn't surprised at all. And he evidently had seen lots and lots and lots of anti-science in his experience. So reflecting on that, I wrote this little piece. It's called Reliance on Anti-Science is a Bias. Anti-science is a bias. Oh, for a religious explanation that does not try us. Easy expectation, simple answering fairy tales, illuminated prophets swallowed by ocean-going whales, winged elephants, unicorns, long water strolls, or simpler things like dwarves and trolls. Or all those icky, sticky science facts that blur our vision and make our eyes contract. Yet, some, undaunted, want to look. They even seem to read books. There are those who seek for facts, while the vast majority would rather lay back and relax, remembering figures, irrational numbers, and formulae. As for me, I'd rather curl up dryly and, just die. I go to temple or to church, and all those saints and saviors rarely leave me in the lurch. Within, I can find a sentence that will prove anything I disapprove. Face the statue, recite the prayer. Who knows what's going on out there? It's a bigger world than I confront. Some practical jokes just to make my mate jump. I asked the pharmacist who chose to study hard and carefully dole out the dose. Was he surprised how few trust science? While yet on his duties they place reliance. I opined, since we're surrounded by so many miracles of science unbounded, I remain shocked, therefore, before the docket, while they renounce science, but admire the rocket. Then they use their pocket computer to check the weather. Who do they think puts this all together? They sit in front of their TV watching junk that would embarrass a chimpanzee? No, he said, I'm not surprised that so few get science right there before your eyes. I'm not surprised, he said. I've seen the evidence, unlike those who believe in providence.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Great,
You nailed that
great stuff.
completely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you did. Yeah.
I try to bring a laugh with my little
Yeah,
pondering.
well, you do. It's
Absolutely,
great
yeah.
humour.
Wisdom and fun. Yeah. I mean, Shakespeare was a great tragedian and a great comedian. I think that the two go together since the Athenian theatre. It's not all tragedy.
Would you read another, my brother?
Yes, I will. But talking of science, I learnt recently that the Russian Revolution was started by women, and it was started on Women's Day. And had it not been for the women knocking on the door of the Cossacks, the people would have been slaughtered. And the man behind the rejigging of the Russian Revolution was Eisenstein. Do you know the filmmaker? I have a poem here. Eisenstein's Imagistic Dance. An incredible opportunity to play Rachmaninoff, believing in the world vision of Copernicus. The Tsarina Alexandra's Babushka doll, after Sarajevo and the Archduke's assassination, listening to Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony in Venice or St. Petersburg, Petrograd, the snowflake window mirror the wreckage, territory deadlocked in bombardment, atomic dust particles, ultraviolet wavelengths, believing in the world vision of Copernicus. I danced for the Russian ballet, a ghost ago, a phoenix rising from the dark star. For Isadora Duncan, to the tremors of the piano, a nostalgic tone recalling my childhood, the vastness of the old school parallel bars, the gymnastics of hyperspace cartwheeling, crossing the river to the mountains of the moon. Overstrung piano, stars shimmering bejeweled, arriving at the airport, flying out from Moscow. Svelte dancers mirror the rhapsody's crescendo, spinning akin to Sufi mystics, whirling dervishes. I danced for the Russian royalty, a ghost ago.
That's great.
Lovely. Lovely.
Cheers, Rick.
I enjoy your work so much, Robert. You bring your love of science, your love of history, your love of culture, and bringing it all together. You have, to my mind, such a what's called by the conventional an enlightened view, a view where today's world is infused by the knowledge of the past, by an understanding, a sympathy with culture. And I just find it so remarkable. And I thank you every time you share. And you as well, Susie. Your heart
Oh,
just shines. And your story poems, your insights, You two are both just, to me, real miracles in the poetry world, and I thank you for the work that you do.
Well, thank you. Yeah. But, well, to follow Roberts, I've got Ghost Lovers, which it doesn't really follow it, but it's kind of linked in somehow.
Sure.
Lovers' lights in my shade, I never saw you slip away. Days and nights without sleeping, days and nights of dreaming, in the company of ghosts who held me in the night. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Why does the world always frown? Honky tonk boy, I'd sell my soul for you. Don't deny me the right to my property. Crazy for you, baby. It's what you always say. Don't leave me. Don't leave me this way. Take off your boots. Leave them by my door. I'm dressed in old brocade. I never ever sleep. I live forever in cobwebs and rust. I love you all in the furtive dusk. Do you have recollections of me? Your face is star in my gallery. I display you for the memory. I don't need to embroider your names. You're always there in my heart, from the first to the last departed. My virgin boy, a law student. Let's not fudge, I need you too. High up there, disguised as a judge, Jean Genet style on the balcony of fate. To my little Rubik's Cube man, Lord of the Rings, you threw it all away by sleeping with my friend and wearing my velvet cloak while you gave it head. But then you were promiscuous at sweet 18, a true lover boy with your golden snake, a jackanapes who moved like a shooting star. The next in line, what can I say? You're all lined up outside my door. It's trippy here where I languish in bed, trapped in a world of my own imaginings. Just say you'll satisfy me still. One more night before purgatory.
Lovely, lovely. Ah, my goodness, friends. Let me share another. This is called 420 Returns of the Day. And there's a metaphor here in America where they refer to 420 as marijuana time. Okay. And I suspect once upon a time you might have inhaled once or twice. I just guessing.
Maybe.
So in case you do or have in the past, I want to share this with you. This is called 420 Returns of the Day.
Uh-huh.
I knew a man who used to say marijuana didn't know his name. He swore up and down when he toked up, marijuana never filled his cup. It never even made him cough. It had no effect. This man was tough. It never had, he said, played its tricks upon his head. His mind was of a better design, his thinking facilities too refined. I knew one day we'd have to test. I didn't want to take a chance until I suggested he try one more dance. We came upon some lawyer pot, 300 times stronger than the stuff we usually got. We'd had some of this stuff before. Let me tell you, it really opens the door. I sat it down and explained it this way, chum. We'd got some stuff that really beats the drum. You take one hit and you'll be flying. No longer will you, unintended by MJ, you'll be extended. You'll be flying. Even refriended, just take one hit. You'll be the wiser. Take one puff, you'll ne'er deny her. No, he sneered, I'll smoke one by myself. He jeered. No single chanced puff, I'm made of sterner stuff. So, good to his word, he tried some smoke, one doobie by himself, son. 3 decent draws, he sat right back, passed it on. Enough for me, Jack. We played a trick when he left the room, tilted every chair like on the Titanic's doom. He saw those chairs tilted in revision. He bent his neck to attempted unified precision. He said, oh God, the room is tilted. It doesn't make sense. All time is stilted. He looked around and then he smiled. He and Mary Jane had reconciled.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, that's great.
yeah. You're
Very
talking to a
great.
couple of people who couldn't work out the chessboard from the mahjong board. Was that the mahjong board?
Yeah,
In
well,
Amsterdam,
Amsterdam,
in the
where
attic.
it was legal for the bar. You went in a
Red Lebanese.
coffee bar and you could have just a man. I wondered how it had happened. And this man came with a leather bag with all these sections, and you could have like red Lebanese or black or whatever. Thought, well, this is something. And then, but it was just so strong. We'd never smoked anything like it before.
We were still playing chess at the end of the
I think
day.
it's good. I think it's a good thing.
On
There's
the
nothing
wrong
wrong
side
with
of the
it.
board.
Nothing.
And the zigzag papers we couldn't make sense of.
Sir, may I ask you if you have another for us?
Yeah, sure. Lenin's brain.
Ah,
Room 19 of the Brain Research Institute, Moscow, houses Vladimir Ilyin's brain. When experts checked out Lenin's brain folds, they discovered he had extra wrinkles, the simple distinction of Darwinian advantage. Not so much Swiss cheese burnt by midnight oil, as Solzhenitsyn suspected, a fusty walnut, what part reptilian. The secateurs of gentlemen historians cut back a floating moonflower, a clinging Anastasia, squiggling synapses, Cyrillics commissaried by the Hermitage, a withered leaf like the millinery of his mother's, folded down with mothballs in hope. They uncurtain the chambers, the mould, the architectonics, the slide, courtesy of Reuters, resembles a dry, blood-splattered wall.
do you want to talk a little bit about that, Robert?
Yeah,
To
sure.
share what some of your thinking was about that one?
Information, Rick. I mean, I'm one of these guys that soaks up information like from National Geographic et al., you know. And as I was saying, when I was at school, in my high school days, I was very taken in by history. I'm going to say, well, that is a Freudian slip. Well, anyway, I do believe that history, like Herodotus, because he was a master of lies and the master of history, and history doesn't change in so many thousands of years. It's the victors who tell the truth, I suppose it's called. The truth is with the victors, and we'll never know what happened at Thermopylae unless we read Thucydides and not Herodotus. It's amazing to me that actually a Greek vessel landed on the coast of America and got back to Greece. How is that possible? And these people were talking about America as Elysium. I thought, this is amazing. And it's a true story. It would make a wonderful sci-fi film that these Greek sailors got from the Mediterranean across the Atlantic to the coast of America. That's as great as the Polynesians who sailed to the Ecuadorian coast all those years ago, you know. I mean, wow. That's all I can say. Wow.
And I have argued the importance of historic literacy, especially keeping an eye on the fact that, as Robert mentioned, you know, history as it's formally told is always told by the victors.
Yeah, but this idea of bringing back like two native children in a cage or something,
Oh my
blame them, you know,
Yeah.
it's
But it's strange you
that
should say
came
that
from
because
the
I
Victorian.
have a personal family link with this because my grandfather's family produced the balloon fabric for Wild Bill Hickok's show in London.
No
And-
kidding.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And not a big deal. I mean, they got paid probably like piecework. They were a factory basically. And anyway, Star Child came from Canada, I think. Star Child and a few Indians, well, indigenous Indian people came to visit Queen Victoria at Buckingham Palace, courtesy of Wild Bill Hickok. Yeah. Susie got a story here because I think we are an ancestral link here. I mean, you know, what about Joe?
Oh, the Cherokee, yeah. They've got some sort of Cherokee. I don't know how true it is, but it's coming through a line from the family that someone walked down through Canada or something, and he was, you know, some linkage with our family, which means I could be part Cherokee. And sometimes I think I am, you know, because some of us have second sight, you know, in our family, and I think that might be coming from that side. Friend from Canada, she said, well, you look a bit like some of the people who lived near here, you know, on the reservation or something. You've got facially, you look very similar to them. I thought that's interesting, you know. But yeah, that's that story there. Yeah, I think I'm Gypsy origin as well.
Oh, so am I. You know, I mean, my grandfather was a gypsy, you know, from Donegal. And funny enough, my family used to wreck boats. Don't tell the royal family, you know, they'll want the money for.
Those tariffs are just lost in time.
My father told me that his family used to wreck boats off the Dingle Peninsula for money. What they would do, they would tie a lantern to a donkey's tail, send it off into the water. They would think it was a lighthouse, and the ships would come in. And when they foundered on the groundswell, we would just run aboard and strip it of all the gold. I think in the old days we were a very rich family, but who knows? I don't see none of that money.
Well, your family owned music halls, didn't
Honest
they?
God.
Robert's family owned music halls in London, and you had an uncle who used to knit, didn't you?
And played a violin.
He played a
Or
violin.
fiddle.
That was
Yeah.
definite. That's true.
And
You know.
a great
Where you
uncle
come
of mine had his own magazine, as I have my magazine, and he was the man for all the music halls around London, and so all of the acts like Little Titch and Murray Lloyd, they'd all check into my uncle, and he was like Mr. Big in the music hall days, and I mean, you know, I seem to relate to Whitechapel a big way.
You're a real Londoner, aren't you?
I'm a real Londoner, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's because I'm
Well,
a
my
Londoner.
granddad used to sing that to me when he was like looking after me with his girlfriend during the dark days of my childhood. But my babyhood with his girlfriend would sing a number of songs like "Come into the Garden Maud," which is his girlfriend's name. They leave me in the dark, you know. They go off to the pub. They dose me with cough mixture and some Guinness or something. My parents actually thought my granddad was looking after me, but they went off to the picture, you know, the cinema, and that was the same thing for my dad, you know, because he was a great cinema goer. And
I think we're lucky, really, though, that we actually lived, you know, and
well,
we lived among.
it's lucky
We're
that we
ordinary.
lived at all.
We're ordinary people, and we
Well,
gathered things in for ourselves, you know, life, and I think that's important.
Well, life is what we
It
have.
could be just as bad
Life
to live
is
in a
life.
rich family. I mean,
Oh my God!
look at Dead Poets Society.
Living in a rich
Have you seen that?
family.
That film, Dead Poets Society.
Oh, that's so great. I mean, Virginia Woolf lived in a rich family. What did she have?
Well, yes,
Well,
I mean, they get shoved in a boarding school at the age of 7, and they don't have any time to develop really on their own, do they?
I know an English poet who was in that situation, Hugo Williams. He said to me at age 7, he was piped off to a public school and never really had a choice. And they're the most horrendous places in God.
It used to be worse, I think. Yeah.
A friend of ours who also went to a minor public school said, if you survive a public school, you can survive a prisoner of war camp. I think that's very true, very, very true. I mean, one of our favourite authors is the late J.G. Ballard.
Have you come across him, J.G. Ballard?
No.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
you
God,
should. You'd love him. Yeah.
You would. You'd love his short stories. Yeah.
The last one was Kingdom Come, which that he wrote, I think. So you should look that one up, definitely. It's a very,
What's his
very, it's
name
just at
again?
the shopping mall, actually.
Ballard.
J.G. Ballard.
Yeah,
Ballard, Ballard.
Okay.
last
Well, my
emperor.
friends, I
Empire of
need
the
to wrap
Sun.
up for today.
Okay.
But I want to
Um,
ask you if you
Go
want to
on.
share one more final thought before we leave today. Would you like to read one more poem before we leave?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? We were talking about cave painter. With the sap of a yew tree mixed with the gall of a toad, I make my cryptic marks. I expose their superstition. There is so much interdepartmental jealousy. The spectres of the forest keep them in their place. Their interrelationships are ridiculous. The hunting parties can be quite enlightening. I travel out with them as soon as I can run. I just record phenomena, a maze of lies, a professional stance, a web of images, delusions for them to follow. It is an indignant pursuit, a deer caught mid-flight when they return empty-handed. I've corroborated their fantasy, tough-looking in the semi-dark. They need magic to consign them to their spore. I only had the dullest of pigments to work with, refusing the blood that was offered. My eyes are photosensitive, and the appearance of these awkward shadows confused the multiple projections I had aimed at in my painting. They won't obliterate the endless succession of animals, leaping frame by frame, blink, and you animate them. These nightmare figures come to view. It's a question of velocity, slower than their spears. Thank you very much, Rick, for allowing us to read on your radio program today.
Can I finish
Ed,
with my sky burial?
Please,
I've got the
please.
sky burial, which I think might finish for me. It's sky burial. That's my chosen way to pass on a highway to the stars, pursued by eagles, junked by mankind, en route to nowhere. There I'll find myself, buried under snow for 3 days, when I make my offering to nature, a kind of payback time for all that she's endured. My body will be feather bedded before the great feast of my parts. Bears, leopards, and mountain lions can eat their fill in the green spring, as will the daiquiris, the pole bearers, angels sky dancing as I reincarnate, vultures coming into their own at last, after feasting on my earthly remains. Someone told me once how they saw an eagle flying above the thermals with a human hand in its beak. Whee! What a way to go! No mess, no residue, no fire, no ashes, no hole in the ground. The service will not be in Latin or ancient Greek. Maybe some Sanskrit whispered by monks will enter the hollow of my head to see me off. When I sacrifice myself, music will be playing above the spheres, above the universe as we know it. Never rue the day of my passing, my love. You'll always be there at my side, brave and resolute, constant as the tide. I'll be your bride once more. That's my guitar.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Well,
And
thank
I
you.
want to leave you with one last one of mine.
Oh, good. Yeah.
This is called the book. It's the books that aren't there. You know, we have a rash of book banning and book burning and
Oh,
people
I heard about that. Yeah.
warning us that these books just contain such incredibly horrible truths that they must be banned. And teachers and principals are being fired because they're not removing the books fast enough. So I wrote a poem called "It's the Books That Aren't There." Okay, so it's the books that aren't there that really get you, I bet you. It's the books that aren't, that did more than scare him and cost him his job, the filthy gob. It marked him as skylarking. It wasn't a frog on a log that bit him. It wasn't the governor to reach down and get him. A picture of the stricture of a library school, leery of tweaking the governor cheery, an empty library shelf that he showed himself. He sent the photo to the paper like a bloody Don Draper. The publicity would do what publicity should. The picture went viral. There could be no denial. The governor saw the picture. It placed him in a stricture. He couldn't deny it. It caused him and cost him a sort of mental fentanyl riot. He reached out and grabbed right there. He nabbed him. This guy that went out and did a show and tell, he didn't yell, he didn't protest, and you probably know or can guess the rest. He took a picture of an empty bookshelf. The governor demanded, he expanded, what the hells? No shelves, empty shelves? Must have been elves. Are you running for president? I sort of resent it. Surrounded by rebellion, the damn statistician tried to tell him. They raided her place, put guns in her face for telling the truth. This utterly contemptible baby Ruth. Beside, any book review shouldn't take more than 2 minutes, Rexquisite. What kind of book needs more study, right, buddy? But this teacher now is gone, no longer needed or heeded. It's the firing squad at dawn. Just another yawn. But then again, soon enough they'll come. Can't you hear the beating of the numb, the bleeding and the beating of the dumb? It'll be the first resident president to strap on a gun. 45 calibers of fun. Then we'll see the line where I define exactly and impactfully what legislation exactly is mine. I'll draw the line with a barrel, my presidential pistola, like some kind of actual controller. Ain't my humor drolla? I bet you $1 they won't hardly holler down in Florida. I told you.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
lovely. Fabulous.
Well, my friends, thank you so much for your time. It has
Thank
been
you.
marvelous hearing you
Yes.
both
Thank you.
tell your stories, read your poems. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's such a pleasure.
We thank you
And
for
thank you for giving
organising
us the opportunity.
and your
to-
time as well.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Yeah.
wonderful day, my friends.
Yes, you too.
Thanks.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye for now.